Howdy, it's Matt, and I certainly hope that this video finds you well. I'd like to discuss a topic which is not RC related, however it's the topic of bettering yourself. Now, sorry, no phone abuse in this one, but I'll explain how all that happened and probably why you're watching or at least listening to this video, because you already know me from messing around with RC models. So with that said, what have the recent events taught us? I feel, and you may also feel, that life is definitely fragile, but people do like people. I miss people. I'm a little bit sick of the ones which I'm around at the moment. I'm sure it could be the same for you too, and there's me smirking. Now, we also know that time can definitely be better spent. And also that everything is about pushing yourself and those around you, both mentally, emotionally and physically. And also, crucially, that we require a financial buffer so that when the storm, which we've just what we've just had, is that we hardly notice it. If we have a financial buffer in place, that when the poop hits the fan, pandemic, quite in an extreme case, or just unemployment, scheduled or unscheduled unemployment, it can happen either way. Having a financial buffer can help things happen and not be in a state of panic. Now, it's those 5 things which I would like to cover with you today. So do grab a cuppa and pull up a chair. Let's have a frank discussion about life and the one word which is key to everything. Now, I will mention it a few times. You may even spot it being used. However, its impact upon you and me is profound. You just need to be aware of it, and that's all. So if you're curious, let's dive in and see what Matty's talking about. Now, I am going to focus upon myself for a few minutes. Now, this is not meant to oh, look at me, how good is he boasting session. I can assure you that I am far, far from perfect. However, it's the best real life example or set of examples which I can give you. So let's use what I did here on YouTube for 3 years as an example. This started out on a whim. It was, I always fancied doing that, I'll get round to doing that one day, into doing it by accident with absolutely no intention, and there goes my phone, other than a lingering desire to do so, and then it turned into, I'm doing that for a year. And then I made that, again, I did have some video making experience, but it wasn't key. The key thing which happened is that I took action. I started on day one. Everybody has a day one, but what's more important was not day one, it was actually just turning up for day 2 and day 3 and so on and so forth. And that's the irony here, is that 80% of the battle of doing anything is just turning up. If you turn up, you're here to do something. I have days when I'm going slightly off topic, I get on the rowing machine or get on the running machine and I just refuse to get off. Okay, I turn up and then, right, well, I'm here now, I better go and do something, or I'm just going to stand here. So that's half the battle. It's more than half the battle. It really is. And I've heard other people say this. 80% of the battle is just turning up. Most people cannot be asked to turn up. And those people will complain. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, you know, the type of person. They'll complain that someone has more money than them. They have a nicer house than them. They have a car. They have a trophy. But they never actually put the hours in to get those things, or if that's what they desire, for themselves. Because it is so much easier, it's infinitely easier just to complain, to be jealous, to make excuses why they and you'll notice I'm not using the word you, cannot have or do X, Y, or Z. Now, coming back to that example about myself, and I'm stressing this is not meant to be about me, it's just the easiest thing which I have to be able to relate with you, is that for most people in life, there is a tipping point. There is a step too far, there is a line drawn in the sand. It's one of those, I'm not doing that anymore. I've had enough of this. I feel like shit. And for me, that happens from time to time. So a year ago, I decided that I was fat, and I'm quite blatant about that. My tits had shadows. There's a photograph of me on holiday, and my boobs have shadows. I'm not proud of that, and I use it as a joke. I'm the first person to always take the mickey, the rise, to make fun of myself. And I always used to joke that winter was always coming and I needed the insulation, and the wife was just happy with a cuddly mat, I think, as well. There was very little drive there. Now, things had to change, and the simple decision was that I do not want to be fat anymore. And if I'm honest, I'd been feeling that way for a long period of time, especially clocking 40. And also, I was involved in a 6.8 earthquake in Zante in October a year or two ago. And when you have the most important three people in your universe in front of you, underneath your arms, seeking your safety, I can tell you that will wake anybody up. And that earthquake for me was the final tipping point into making a decision. I couldn't really do much about my diet or what I was doing while I was there, although I did make a point of going out to random walks in the middle of some strange country and some very dodgy roads, but you can only do so much when you're not at home, in short. So when I came home, that decision had already been made. I was not going to be fat anymore. Nothing profound. I didn't say how I was going to do it. I wasn't worrying about the details. I wasn't working about a macro split. I wasn't worrying about training. I wasn't worrying about running or anything else, or getting into the mindset and setting myself up for the long term. It was just a straight decision. This decision was extremely simple, and it was extremely clear. I was not going to be fat anymore. The line was drawn in the sand. And when you make a decision like that, everything, and I genuinely mean this, everything which follows a decision like that. So those of you which have maybe been in a less than ideal relationship, for example, and you decide that enough is enough, the line is drawn, and everything else after that is pretty much mustard. It's just easy. And I really do mean it's really easy, because it just goes back to the base, the simple decision. So having a change of a diet was simple. The decision to heavily limit the amounts of crap I was eating was easy. When the option came up to have Chinese takeaway, or the family was going to KFC or something like that, it was always just a very simple decision. Do you want to be fat, Matt? And of course, the answer to that was no. I'd already made that decision. And this is one of the toughest things in life, is continuing with a decision long after the mood of the original decision has passed. So it's then you get into the grit of it, is that you just simply, as in my case, what was healthy, what was right to eat, and don't eat the junk. And junk is really obvious as well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I quite happily scoffed a whole box of milk chocolate, white milk chocolate, biscuits, little chocolate fingers the other evening. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I ate the whole box, and the family complained, and they could all F off, because I'm, for the rest of the 99% of the week, I'm a very good boy. And of course I felt bad, and that motivated me to do even more the following week, which we are now in that following week, and I can assure you I've set my personal goals extremely high. Also, just coming back onto the topic, going out for long walks with the dog were hard to begin with. They were not easy. Most days before this storm happened, I would easily do 10Ks, 6.4 miles. It would work out to be almost exactly 10K. And then some days I would even run it as well. I also realised that, again, decisions become easy once you make the original decision and decide to stick with it. This is the decision which I'm doing, and this is what's going to happen. I'm talking about weight loss here because I was a fat whatever. But this could be just because I want to improve myself. I want to learn a programming language. I want to learn another language, a spoken language or written language or something else. You want to learn how to do something. You want to learn how to do YouTube in inverted commas. Okay. Once you've made that decision, everything else after that becomes really easy. So, and also really obvious too once you start researching. So I decided that I also needed some motivational support. So and doing this stuff by myself was going to be tricky with having like an unmotivated family around me which are not really into fitness, etc. So finding someone local, so I joined a local HIIT, so high intensity interval training and kettlebell groups, and I do that I still do that 3 times a week even during this pandemic at the moment. And I actually joined that group on purpose because I'd done my research, found a potential personal trainer which came really highly related by 2 separate people, and I joined there and literally started one-on-one sessions with the trainer. You're gonna laugh at this one in a minute. You really are. You're gonna, and I give you full permission to take the piss because I don't care. I genuinely do not care. I go to Dance Fit, which some of you may know is Zumba, and I'm in a room of all women, and I really do not care. I can imagine that would be very intimidating for somebody else. But I don't care because it goes back to the simple decision. I don't want to be fat anymore. Can I put up with being in a room of women who are far more coordinated than myself? Although I must admit I'm a good 5-6 months in now, so I've got most of the moves sorted out, but it has taken me a very long time. That could be very intimidating for somebody else, but and I stand out like a sore thumb, and I don't give a monkeys. I also started BarX. Now, some of you may not know the term BarX. It's in short, or the less posh out there, it's ballet. And I don't care what anybody else thinks of what I do in ballet. In fact, I would double dare you to go and try a ballet lesson for an hour and tell me you do not hurt at the end of it. And that's the thing, is that once you've made a decision and you've set some goals, is that embarrassment is one of the things which goes out the window. You just don't care. For me, there's no point me not only getting my diet into thing and doing fitness and lifting weights, for example, without having functional fitness. So what me and the personal trainer do, which is it's strength and endurance and time and attention training, that's all fine and dandy, but if I cannot put it into use in the real world, then there's no real point of that for me. I'm not I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I'm not looking at putting massive gains. I'm looking, once clarity comes, is that functional fitness is one of those things. So being able to dance is extremely functional. And ballet is like an extreme form of dance. It's extremely difficult, and I personally enjoyed and enjoy the challenge of doing that. So take the piss as you may, but you go and try and do it. And it is extremely hard, and the PT doesn't like it when I say things like, what me and you do, Mike, is exceptionally hard. Those couple of lessons I do with ballet in a week, they are the hardest thing I do in the entire week. The strength which you require, the clarity, the willpower to maintain specific moves is so hard, and I feel very lucky that I'm now physically fit enough to be able to do stuff like that. So anyway, joking. Coming back to the original conversation with the personal trainer, is that I joked with him, look, we could see that this shitstorm was about to happen, and I kind of half joked with Mike, like, look, if this lockdown happens, I'll work out with you every single weekday. And then actually the serious thing is that it happened, and then decided to carry it through, just to see what would happen, and of course we're in the middle of that now. So it really is just a simple case of making a decision on something and then sticking to that decision long after the mood that it was made in has been and passed. And that's the hardest thing. It's just being very clear on that decision or desire. And as I've mentioned, I'm using myself as a reference here, is that after that first decision, I do not want to be fat anymore, or, ooh, I wonder what happens if I upload this video to YouTube. After that decision is made, everything literally becomes easier, and I hinted this a few moments ago. Right now, I play games with myself. I refuse to get off the running machine until I either collapse, think I'm about to do a number 2 to myself, or I've reached 99 minutes and 99 seconds, or I've burned 999 calories, whichever comes sooner. And of course, if it's something I'm going to collapse, I haven't had that yet, and I've got on that running machine when I've had full-blown flu, and just refused to get off because I refused to be ill, and ironically that works, but I don't suggest that at all. It's also about playing those games with you. I'm going to run to Kelston Roundhill, which is it's a 7-mile run. There's a long flat, and the last third of the leg is all uphill, including, and I have not done it yet, a full-blown sprint up quite a steep hill at the end. And it's the decision, it's the playing games with yourself. I'm going to run to Kelston Roundhill, and I'm going to refuse to stop. So from the moment I leave the front door, I'm not going to stop. Now, that could be very simply, for those, if I was a little bit less fit, that would be a case of I'm not going to stop and sit on a bench or something like that. And, well, I'd sit on the bench when I get there and enjoy the view. Well, why would you not do that? You've spent all the last hour trying to get up that hill as fast as possible. Or it's not stop would mean not stop running. So it doesn't matter if I'm crawling, but as long as I'm running, that's the game. The other one is that I'm not going to turn up on the days that I don't want to work. I'm going to turn up on the days which I don't want to turn up on, or that I'm nursing an injury of some form, and just still to carry on. I pulled a tendon in my left foot. It was extremely painful, but I refused to let that hinder me to any great degree. I couldn't really run that well, if I'm honest, and it was very, very painful. Probably shouldn't have done it, and the normal person would have stopped and taken a week off or two. No, I just did my trainer up as tight as physically possible to clamp around my foot to give it the support which it needed, and then just frankly carried on. So, bettering yourself, it's been, for me, and I'm sure it'll be for you, it's been curious to see what happens when you make a decision and simply stick to it. My examples above on YouTube and fitness related topics, that I didn't mean for those things to happen. They all kind of happened by accident. I had a feeling one day, it was an amalgamation of certain circumstances. I'd been lazy for years. I'd always wanted to do YouTube, but just never really came up with a main topic to talk about, or had that much calls to talk about a topic. But I made a decision and I stuck to it, and that's it. It's attrition. It's sticking with that decision long after the mood that it was made in has been and passed. Now, this does extend to all things in life. This could be your marriage, it could be relationships with friends. It could also actually be the choice in ensuring that the relationships which you do have with friends are productive, etc., etc., and to remove negativity or those sour pussies which are out there from being part of your circle of relationships, if that makes any sense. It could be bettering yourself through learning, picking something you've always fancied doing and then doing it. I've done that myself with multiple software languages. I'm in the process of doing it now. I'm in the hunt of mastery with one of the languages and a specific framework. It's not... I deviate too much if I go into that one, but I'm in the hunt of mastery with a specific framework, and that's a very worthwhile ambition to become a master at something, because when you make that kind of decision, it kind of points out that you really have fumbled your way through the last couple of years, maybe. When you start to do things properly, you go, wow, well, at least it did work, you know. One day, sorry, coming back onto the topic. One day, I will get to learn to learn in Spanish. I like the Spanish culture. I like the Spanish people. I have prepared things in advance. I have 2 audiobooks on my phone waiting to be listened to. I have 2 apps on my phone, and I know who the local person here where I live, where I can go and learn Spanish in an environment. When I make that decision, I haven't, and I am procrastinating on that decision, because I know the amount of effort required is not, I can't do a good job at that. Does that make sense? Sometimes you have to be brutal with yourself and say to yourself, I would like to do this, but actually to be able to do this to any great degree, the level which you may have worked out, the level which I like to take things to, I've just got that on the back burner. One day I'll make that decision, and then you'll be damn sure once I've made that decision, I will go and do it. And if to be able to fluently speak Spanish in most scenarios is my goal, then I will achieve that. I've made a slight decision that I want to. I've confirmed that I want to do it. I'm just not willing to go that extra step with that specific topic. I've used the wife as an example. She likes to needle felt. She saw what somebody had made, I think a car boot sale or something like that, and really got into it, started watching a couple of YouTubes, and then she started doing it. She has made some absolutely fascinating things just by perseverance. So, rounding this up, bettering yourself really is not hard. It is a very simple matter of keeping yourself focused, and if you have a simple decision that you have made and it's just keeping that focus, is a whole lot easier. There is a huge but to all of this, and it's ironically it's not your resolve on a decision like I'm going to do YouTube for a year, or I don't want to be fat anymore, or I'm going to learn COBOL for a laugh, you know. The biggest threat, the biggest danger to this isn't you and you losing your resolve that, I'll use my reference, I don't want to be fat anymore. Ironically, the biggest danger is other people. Other people will drag you down at any and all opportunities. This is your biggest threat to bettering yourself. So 3 things for you to be extremely careful with when you are trying to better yourself, okay? And these will come from those trusted sources. My mother is one of those sources, which we'll get into in a few moments. The first one is, if you are hell-bent or just confirmed your decision that you're trying to better yourself, whether that may be through fitness, through relationships, between education, whatever it may be. These very 3 simple things, well, these things you just need to be extremely careful of. Okay, the first one is keep away from the news. News, by its very definition, is bad. Always bad. Okay, you have to get rid of all that negativity in your life. It's unfortunate that somebody on the other side of the planet got a staple in their finger. The news out there is just so bad. Okay, if something is truly newsworthy, you will find out about it soon enough. So for me, what defines newsworthy is something which would impact my day-to-day activities. Anything else about a bloke called Bob and his husband Barbara on the other side of the planet is completely irrelevant to me and to you. News, always bad. Number 2, ignore the naysayers out there. There is always someone out there willing to put you down, especially, and this is the irony, they will cut you down to make themselves feel better, or put you down because it highlights their lack of action. For me, it's my mother. She'll say things like, don't overdo it, you don't have to go to that extreme, do you? And basically, I smile and agree with her, knowing that what she's actually saying is that, oh, Matt, you seem to be quite serious again. Don't overdo it. I don't want you to get hurt. And it kind of highlights her inactivity in certain things. What she's really saying is that she can't do it. I care for you. And all these things I'm actually saying are trying to make me feel slightly better about my own position right now. You have to always keep that in the back of your mind. It may sound really well intentioned, and it is those people which say, oh, don't overdo it. You don't have to go to that extreme. And you have to recognize these types of comments. They're meant to sound good. They're meant to sound really helpful and caring. But it's really, and you have to be absolutely aware of this. When you hear it, your little, look out for this. Somebody will say something to you like this. Okay, you have to be very aware of this, because it's meant to sound helpful. It's meant to sound caring. But what they are really saying it for is their own ears, and it's the person saying it to themselves and not you. And the best thing for you to do is just acknowledge such comments and then promptly ignore them. It is not their goal, it's not their decision, it is yours. And what they're actually saying is that you're highlighting my inefficiencies or lack of action, but I want to sound caring, I want to sound helpful. And the third and final one to bettering yourself is that you have to keep away from the negative people. There are people out there who are natural born whiners or just plain defeatists. You know the type of person which we're talking about, the one who a 1 in a million thing is happening to them. Again, they're singled out. Poor woe me. You know the type of person. They'll bitch, they'll moan about anything. They won't even bother doing something because they've already decided it's going to be a bad result. They won't even bother. This is especially hard when that negative person is a direct family member, a partner, or a spouse. You can only do your best to distance from those, at least mentally, when needed from such people, because they will drag you down to their level. So obviously this is a little bit longer than what I'd originally planned. Some of you may have picked up that very special word. The key to bettering yourself during this discussion, did you spot it? I dare for you to pause this video right now and write down, or at least mentally note in your head, the one key to all of this. And it's very simple. It's got me into some very good situations, YouTube being one of them. And that word is simply curiosity. To be curious. Do not accept someone else's standards or expectations. Be curious to what can be done. Be curious what you can do and what you can achieve. Refuse to get off that running machine or stop for that cheeky salted caramel cheesecake on the way to work. No one else can better you. Only you can better yourself. See what you can achieve and let curiosity take you there. I know for some people that they feel that they need permission from someone or somebody else to do something, even just for themselves. Well, I give you permission to better yourself. I hope that's crystal clear. And my final comments to you. You don't need a manual, you don't need a book, you don't need a DVD or a specific path to follow. The permission slip, a letter from your teacher, to go out and to do something for yourself. Make that simple decision and then stick to it. And just go do it. Enjoy the journey. Be curious. And from myself, Matt, I look forward to you bettering yourself. Cheerios.